has propounded wondrous Dharma is rarely met with, even 100,000 million kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, accept and maintain it. May we unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth, the unsurpassed, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rarely met with, even in 100,000 million kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, accept and maintain it. May we unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth, the unsurpassed, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rarely met with, even in 100,000 million kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, accept and maintain it. May we unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I seem to be far away. Anyway, but I can see you, and this is wonderful. Good morning, everybody. So this is the last full day of our Sesshin, the Jewel Mirror Sesshin of 2020. And it went so quickly. It was gone in a flash. I don't know if you feel the same way, but yeah, it was amazing how quickly the last day arrived. Not quite the last day yet. Tomorrow we have a half day. Dogen talks about, he talks to his monks and he says, please, honored followers of Zen, long accustomed to groping for the elephant, do not be suspicious of the true dragon. Or it says, do not doubt the true dragon. Long accustomed to groping for the elephant. That's what we are. We are those blind men that are touching the elephant different. Everybody is touching a different part. And they each think they know the truth. I know that the elephant is like a rope. Or I know it's like a tree trunk. Yeah, I can feel that, it's true. So there is a Japanese phrase. I don't speak Japanese, but Shohako Okumura talks about this. Seeing things through a straw. Like when you look through a straw, you just see a tiny little bit of reality. You don't see the whole picture. And this is the human condition. We see just a little bit of the reality, and we think this is it. So arguments start about who has that real truth, because we all think we know what is true, because I can see it, I can see it, and I think this is the whole thing. And then arguments, fights, wars start over this. And if we could see the whole truth, we wouldn't have to fight. Everything would be just clear. Dogen's monks had come from various different Buddhist traditions that had already been in China for quite a long time, and different teachers taught differently, so they were used to chanting, different ways of awakening. They would do a lot of chanting, or they would do repentance, practice devotional practice or reciting scriptures and so on. So many different traditions that they thought was the right one. And then Dogen says he had all these people coming from different traditions, and he thought, well, I want to tell you the direct way to see the truth right now. You don't have to even go that way. You just, when you meet a teacher, you sit and you know this is it. So that's his teaching, and it is in the tradition of the Tiantong mountain, the Tiantong school. Rujing was the abbot of Tiantong Monastery, and it's also his name, Tiantong Rujing, in Japanese, Tendo Nyojo. And about 100 years before Rujing was, not 200, I'm saying 2 generations before Rujing was Hongju, who was also a very famous Zen teacher. He also was called Tiantong Sogaku, or Tendo Sogaku in Japanese. And he also wrote practice instructions. He has a very beautiful poetic language, and he talks about silent illumination. So that was his practice that he was teaching from. And you can find very much semblance in Dogen's teachings to Hongju's. So for him, he says, the matter of oneness cannot be learned at all. The essence is to empty and open out body and mind, as expansive as the great emptiness of space. Body and mind are one, or one suchness. Outside this body, there is nothing else. So it is said, the sage is without self, and yet nothing is not the self. The sage is without self, and yet nothing is not the self. We have the elephant, a heavy earthbound animal, and Dogen says, don't hold on to that elephant. See the true dragon. Don't be suspicious, or don't doubt the true dragon. So the dragon in Chinese law is the embodiment of wisdom and freedom. It can fly instead of being earthbound. And here it stands for the truth. So he says also, devote your energies to a way that directly indicates the absolute. This is in my translation, and I don't know what this one is, but it talks about the true way, the real, I think it says in our version. Devote your energies to a way that directly indicates the absolute. So we have the absolute as one aspect of the world, and we have the phenomena. Now in our world, and I think that was probably very much the same in Dogen's time, people were very attached to phenomena, to the world of materialists, to materials of things. And so the teaching of suchness was very important in order to open up, as Hongju says, open up the mind, as expansive as the great emptiness of space. And then there is the teaching of non-duality, where suchness and or emptiness and form are one. are not separate. During the practice period in Zen monasteries, the monks, usually because there's a large number of monks, they are separated in two groups. One is the dragons, one is the elephants. And they have sometimes different schedules. They do different chores at different times. So they're not all doing the same thing at all the times, but they're equal in value. They're doing the same things, just, at different times. So they don't all, are lumped in one place. So each one is either an elephant or a dragon. And at the Shuso ceremony, where the head monk shows his or her understanding and is ready to teach, they will hit the staff on the ground and say, "Dragons and elephants, bring me your questions." So dragons and elephants have the same value. And this is the teaching of non-duality, of the absolute aspect of reality and the relative aspect, which are not separate. And we talk about the two truths being really one. Like the harmony, we were chanting the harmony of difference and sameness. So you have one and the many, and they're in harmony. And Dogen also says you have gained the pivotal opportunity of human form. So being human means being upright. That's the difference between animals and humans, is that we walk uprightly, which is a physical way of being. When we talk about the Zazen instructions, we talk about the sitting posture, having a upright back, not leaning to the side or forward or backward. And this physical posture is also a mental posture. Reb Anderson wrote a book about the precepts, and it's called Being Upright. So it's a moral, it's about ethical conduct, how we conduct ourselves in a moral way. That's the precepts. And Dogen was very strong about the precepts. He said the precepts are the gateway into Zen. And he wrote the standards for the Zen community. They were later in the 17th century, they were compiled in several chapters in the Eihei Shingi, and you find the instructions to the cook, to this tenzo. And he says very in minute detail how the cook, or how everybody has to conduct themselves, how you take care of everything. Very particular. Everything has to be just in its own place, in its right form. And nothing is wasted. And you treat pots and pans as if they were your own eyes. So all this is it is very important. So these standards are not just for convenience, that we can get along with each other, but they're moral standards, they're ethical standards. And this pivotal opportunity of human form, this pivotal opportunity means that humans have a choice. We have that opportunity to pivot. We can go this way or that way. So do we go for fame and gain, or go we for enlightenment? So in the Bendowa, as I read already last time, Dogen says, yet there may be true students who are not concerned with fame and gain, but who allow their thought of enlightenment to guide them. So that was when he was thinking, should I be teaching? Is it worthwhile? Will there be people who are interested in this? And he says, well, I should really try that. I should really offer this teaching, because there may be some students who are not interested in fame and gain, which was probably, most of them were, most people at the time, just like nowadays, most people are interested in, money, have a good job, and being accomplished and accepted. So as a young person, Dogen is very enthusiastic about this teaching of suchness, which is more like a personal enlightenment or wisdom. And then later he includes also bringing it into the world, bringing this sense of wholeness into the world. Hokyoji says in his practice discussions, if you can sit here with stability, then you can freely step across and engage the world with energy. So this reminds me also of the saying that Dogen also quotes in the Mountains and Waters Sutra, and it's one master said, when he started practicing, he saw mountains and rivers. And then when he had practiced for a while, there were no more mountains, no more rivers. That was emptiness. When he understood emptiness, that understanding of suchness, there was no more separation. Everything was one. And that is also the 8th image in the 10 observing pictures, where there is just an empty circle. So this is enlightenment. This is the Enso, which was originally the end stage of those 8. There were 8 pictures only. And then they added 2 more. So in the 9th picture, the world comes back. And the master says, when I had been practicing for about 30 years, I saw there were mountains and rivers again. But now these mountains and rivers appear in a very different light. They are alive. And they're vivid. They're the vital way of emancipation, that, as Dogen says. It is that emancipation where you are coming back from the mountain, where you have that enlightenment as it is part of you, and you're seeing the world in a different light. That is the vital emancipation. And this is what we are looking for. Hokyoji says here, simply dwell in the self, in true suchness, abandon conditioning, open-minded and bright without defilements, simply penetrate and drop off everything. Although you are inherently spirited and splendid, still you must go ahead and enact it. Immediately you can sparkle and respond to the world. Merge together with all things. Everywhere is just right. In our flyer for the Jewel Mirror Samadhi, it said, how do we directly embrace the crisis, both internally and externally, in this world we face? here. How do we transform the world, both individually and collectively? Both need to simultaneously manifest in order for our efforts to have enduring value. Shine the inward light outward to all, and the lotus will bloom in muddy water. This is our task. And I want to read a little bit more from Hongji's practice instructions. And you can see where Dogen is coming from. This is his lineage. This is the teaching that he inherited. The field of boundless emptiness is what exists from the very beginning. You must purify, cure, grind down, or brush away all the tendencies you have fabricated into apparent habits. Then you can reside in the clear circle of brightness. The practice of true reality is simply to sit serenely in silent introspection, spacious and content, without confusion from inner thoughts or grasping, effectively overcome habitual behavior and realize the self that is not possessed by emotions. So that sounds very much like the Fukanzazengi. If you accord everywhere with thorough clarity and cut off sharp corners without dependence on doctrines, you can be called a complete person. And then he says, but before realizing non-mind, we still have great hardship. Empty and desireless, simple and genuine. This is how to strike down and fold up the remaining habits of many lives. When the stains from old habits are exhausted, the original light appears. Further, when you turn within and drop everything completely, realization occurs. Contemplating your own authentic self is how to contemplate Buddha. All Buddhas and all minds reach the essential without duality. Immediately, without allowing past conditions to turn you, genuinely enact it. Enacting is manifesting, is showing it in the world. And maybe then we can make a difference, or we can help to heal the world. Often Buddhists are asked to make statements of peace, because I think people know that this is the teaching of Buddhism. I was asked to make a statement for the convention that's happening, or it's not happening this year, but it will be broadcast, and they asked me to make a statement of peace, so to say something for 10 minutes and then have a prayer, because the different people from different religions were asked to do that for the different days. And I said a prayer from the Dalai Lama, who says this every morning, and it's from Shantideva. It's a beautiful prayer that I don't have the words here now, but it's something like, make me an instrument of your peace, something like that, that I can bring this into the world. If you have any questions or comments, I'm open for that. Anybody here or on Zoom? You could write it in the chat, and then I can read it.
It's me again.
Yeah? New one.
Many years ago, maybe like 25 years ago, Tenshin Roshi did a session in Clouds and Water Zen Center, and he was speaking on the Fukanzazengi. And he said that in terms of the true dragon, that he told this story of, it probably was Chinese, it seems like, that there was a man who collected statues of dragons, and he had them all over his house. Wooden dragons and out of clay and all kinds of dragons, and there was a real dragon flying by this guy's house, and he saw all the dragons through the window, and he said, "Oh, this guy likes dragons. I'm gonna stop and say hello." And he knocked on the man's door, and the man opened the door, and he completely freaked out.
And ran.
And ran. And so when the true dragon was at his door, couldn't handle it.
Yeah, I know that story. Yeah, I was thinking of that too. Yeah, it's really, it's true for us too, that we often are suspicious or doubtful of that truth, because it's just too big for us, right? Too scary. Yeah. Could you hear that? Oh, no, okay, good. Is there anything in the chat?
Not yet, but
Okay.
I think I also. Oh, yes. There's here
You can read it.
from Jodo Klusin. You had a quote that included something like having no emotion.
Mm-hmm.
I internally changed it to not being overrun by emotion.
Oh, yeah.
But the quote seemed to mention something like not having emotion, having gone beyond them. Can you comment on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hongju says here, not possessed by emotions. I think you don't get attached to emotions. I mean, emotions will arise. That's beyond our control. But we don't have to attach to them. We don't have to be possessed by them. So I don't know who you are in maybe one of those pictures. If you raise your hand. Oh, that's you. Okay, great. Good to meet you. Is that a good enough answer? Not to be possessed? Yeah, okay, great. Thank you. You can also unmute yourselves. I think that's possible, right?
That's not a good idea.
Maybe not a good idea.
It's feedback.
Okay.
I haven't figured that
Yeah.
out. But we have another comment from David Alexander. He says, "Wonderful Dharma talk. Is this being recorded?" Yes, it is being recorded. It doesn't seem to indicate that. I'm recording it a different way, not through Zoom.
Yeah.
That's why you can't see it. David also says, interesting how Shanti Deva's prayer is similar to St. Francis's
Yes, very
peace
much.
prayer.
Yes, it's very much. I actually, the quote came from St. Francis prayer, but it's very similar to that. And yeah, if you are tuning into the convention, maybe you can hear me giving my little speech. Hi, I see you, David. Great, thank you. It is recorded. Did you hear that all? Yeah, so in a different way, so it's not on the on the what you see. Okay. All right, I think we can stop here if there's nothing else. Thank you very much, and enjoy the last day do, take advantage of it as much as you can.
May our intention equally penetrate every being in place with the true merit of Buddha's way. Beings are numberless, I bow to freedom. Illusions are inexhaustible, I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless, I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable, I vow to realize it. Beings are numberless, I vow to freedom. Illusions are inexhaustible, I vow to end them. Dharma gates